On the morning of September 13th, 1944, in the concentration camp of Dachau, a woman knelt on the cold ground. She had been tortured for months, chained, kept in solitary confinement so strict that even the guards were forbidden to speak to her. She had refused, every single time, to give them a single name. The officer raised his pistol. Her last word was, liberté, freedom. She was 30 years old. Her name was Noor Inayat Khan, and before she became the most wanted woman in Nazi-occupied Europe, before the Gestapo hunted her across Paris, before she held an entire spy network together with nothing but a radio and her own nerve. She was something that makes this story almost impossible to believe. She was a children's book author, a musician, a pacifist who had never fired a gun. The British intelligence officers who sent her into France wrote in her file that she was not suitable for the work, too gentle, too honest, too emotional. They sent her anyway. This is what happened next. To understand Noor, you have to understand the world she came from, because nothing about her background suggests the woman she would become. And yet, looking back, everything does. She was born in Moscow in 1914, the daughter of an Indian Sufi mystic named Hazrat Inayat Khan and an American woman from Albuquerque, New Mexico, named Ora Ray Baker. Her father was no ordinary man. He was one of the most celebrated musicians in India, a descendant of the Mughal royal family, and a spiritual teacher who believed that music was the bridge between the human soul and God. The family moved constantly. Moscow, London, Paris. By the time Noor was a child, she had already lived in more countries than most people visit in a lifetime. Paris became home. The family settled in a house called Fazal Manzil, House of Blessing, in the suburb of Suresnes. It was a home filled with music, prayer, and a philosophy of radical nonviolence. Her father taught that all human beings were one. That war was the failure of the soul. That the highest courage was the courage to love in the face of hatred. Then, in 1927, her father died. Noor was 13 years old. She became, overnight, the de facto head of the family. Her mother collapsed into grief so profound, she rarely left her room. Noor cooked. Noor cleaned. Noor raised her younger siblings. She did it without complaint and without fanfare. She simply did what needed to be done. This pattern, quiet endurance, invisible labor, duty without recognition, would define her entire life. She studied child psychology at the Sorbonne. She studied music at the Paris Conservatoire, becoming an accomplished harpist and pianist. She wrote stories for children, gentle fables drawn from Indian mythology, published in a French magazine, collected in a book called 20 Jataka Tales. Her stories were about kindness, about the strength found in softness, about creatures who chose compassion over power. She was, by every account, one of the gentlest people anyone had ever met. Then, Germany invaded France. It was May 1940. Noor was 26. She watched the German army march into the country that had been her home for most of her life, and something shifted inside her. The pacifism her father had taught her, the belief that violence was never the answer, collided with something older and more urgent. She had to do something. She and her brother Vilayat fled to England, and Noor Inayat Khan, the children's author, the harpist, the pacifist, walked into a recruitment office and volunteered for the war. The British military had no idea what to do with her. She was Indian. She was a woman. She was the descendant of Mughal royalty, who had also somehow grown up in Paris. She spoke French like a native. She spoke English like a native. She spoke Urdu, and she played the harp, and she had never, in her entire life, deliberately hurt another living being. She trained as a wireless operator with the Women's Auxiliary Air Force. She was good, exceptionally good, fast, precise, calm under pressure. And that is when the Special Operations Executive, the SOE, Churchill's secret spy agency, came looking. The SOE needed wireless operators in France, desperately. The German forces had been systematically hunting and killing them. The average life expectancy of an SOE wireless operator in occupied France at that point in the war was 6 weeks. 6 weeks. They approached Noor. They explained what the job was. They explained, as clearly as they could, what the risks were. She said yes immediately. The training reports do not paint a flattering picture. Her instructors wrote that she was not overburdened with brains and liable to make mistakes. One report described her as too emotional for field work. Another said she was not temperamentally suited to the demands of undercover operations. They noted that she was incapable of lying convincingly, a significant problem for a spy, and that she had a tendency to speak too openly about herself. One instructor recommended she not be sent at all. The SOE sent her anyway, because they were desperate, and because, underneath the polite reservations, they had seen something the reports couldn't quite articulate. Under pressure, Noor Inayat Khan did not break. She bent, absorbed, endured, and stayed. She was given a code name, Madeleine. On the night of June 16, 1943, she was flown to France in a small aircraft and dropped into the darkness over the Loire Valley. She landed in a field. She buried her parachute. She walked to the nearest road. She was the first female wireless operator to be infiltrated into occupied France. What she found when she arrived in Paris was a catastrophe. In the weeks before her arrival, the German security services, the SD, and the Gestapo had conducted a sweeping series of arrests that had virtually destroyed the SOE network she was supposed to be joining. The Prosper Network, one of the largest Allied spy operations in France, had been dismantled almost overnight. Dozens of agents had been arrested. Some had already been executed. Noor arrived into the wreckage. Every other surviving wireless operator in her network fled or went into hiding. London sent word, "Return to England. It's too dangerous. Come home." Noor refused. She understood something precise in that moment. If she left, there would be no wireless operator in Paris, no communication between the French resistance and London, no coordination for supply drops, no intelligence. The network, already shattered, would die completely. She was the last link. So she stayed. For the next 3.5 months, Noor Inayat Khan operated alone across Paris. She moved constantly, never sleeping in the same place twice, cycling across the city with her wireless equipment hidden in a suitcase, transmitting from apartments, from attics, from gardens. The Germans used radio detection vans to triangulate the positions of illegal transmitters. Every time she broadcast, she risked being found. She changed her appearance. She used multiple aliases. She built, almost from scratch, a fragile new network of contacts. Resistance, who would shelter her, carry messages, provide safe houses. She transmitted over 100 messages to London. She organized supply drops for the resistance. She helped Allied airmen shot down over France to escape back to England. She did all of this alone for months in the most heavily surveilled city in Europe. The Gestapo had her physical description. They had her aliases. They were actively hunting her. She knew this. Multiple times, people urged her to leave. She had opportunities. She had contacts who could have smuggled her out. She stayed every time. There is a moment recorded in the testimonies of people who knew her during those months that says everything about who Noor Inayat Khan was. A fellow agent asked her, at some point during those 3 months, whether she was afraid. She said, "Every day. But fear is not a reason to stop." She was betrayed in October 1943. The identity of the betrayer has been disputed for decades. The most credible evidence points to a woman named Renee Gari, the sister of one of Noor's SOE colleagues, who reportedly received a payment of 100,000 francs for the information. Other historians have pointed to different sources. The full truth has never been conclusively established. What is certain is this: on October 13th, 1943, the Gestapo came for her. They expected an easy arrest. What they got was a fight. Noor physically resisted her capture, screaming, struggling, refusing to be taken quietly. The Gestapo officers had to physically overpower her. Even then, she attempted to escape twice in the first days of her captivity, once through a bathroom window, once through the skylight of her cell. Both attempts failed. After the second, she was placed in chains. The Germans understood immediately what they had captured. Her wireless equipment was seized. Her code books were found. And here is where the story becomes almost unbearable. Among her possessions, the Gestapo found something she had been explicitly told to destroy: her messages. Written records of her communications with London, every transmission she had sent and received, kept in notebooks because she found it difficult to memorize them all. The Germans now had her codes, her contacts, her communication protocols. They did something that still disturbs historians today. They continued operating her radio as if she were still free. They transmitted to London in her name, feeding false information, arranging fake supply drops, identifying other agents for arrest. The operation, called Funkspiel radio game, ran for months. London, unaware that Noor had been captured, kept responding. Noor herself told them nothing. Under interrogation, and the interrogations were not gentle, she refused to confirm or deny anything. She gave no names. She revealed no safe houses. She provided nothing that could be used to harm anyone she had worked with. Her interrogators later described her as the most difficult prisoner we ever handled. She was transferred to Germany, first to Pforzheim prison, where she was classified as Nacht und Nebel, night and fog. This was the Nazis' designation for prisoners who were to disappear without trace. No communication with the outside world. No letters. No visitors. No record of what happened to them. She was kept in chains, in solitary confinement, for 10 months. In Pforzheim, there was a small window in her cell. Through it, she managed to communicate in whispers with the prisoners the next cell, a French woman named Yolande Legrave. They never met. They never saw each other's faces. But they spoke, carefully, quietly, for months. Yolande Legrave survived the war. She was the one who later testified to what Noor had endured. She described a woman who was in constant pain, who was treated with deliberate cruelty, who was given inadequate food and no warmth, and who never, in all those months, broke. In September 1944, Noor was transferred to Dachau. She arrived on September 12th. On the morning of September 13th, she was taken out with 3 other SOE agents, Yolande Beekman, Madeleine Dommermunt, and Ilian Plumen. They were made to kneel. The accounts of what happened in those final moments differ slightly in their details. What all accounts agree on is this: Noor Inayat Khan was still fighting, even then, even there. Her last word, according to the testimony of an SS officer who later gave evidence at a war crimes tribunal, was Liberté. She was 30 years old. The war ended 8 months later. And then something deliberate happened. The SOE files were classified, not for a year, not for a decade, sealed for 30 years. The surviving agents were bound by official secrecy agreements. The networks had been decimated. The people who knew what Noor had done were either dead, silent, or forbidden to speak. This was not an accident. In the aftermath of the war, the British government made a series of quiet decisions about which stories would be told and which would not. The heroism of women like Noor, Indian women, Muslim women, women who had died nameless in Nazi camps, was not the story that post-war Britain needed to tell about itself. So they didn't tell it. In 1949, 4 years after the war ended, an author named John Overton Fuller published a biography called Madeleine. She had tracked down the people who had known Noor in Paris, in London, in Suresnes. She had pieced together the story from fragments and whispers. It was the first time most people in Britain had ever heard the name Noor Inayat Khan. 4 years. For a woman who had held the last wireless link between Paris and London alone. The picture that emerged from Fuller's work was not of a hero, as the world typically imagines one. There were no dramatic escapes, no perfect missions, no moments of cold, fearless efficiency. There was instead something rarer and more honest, a woman who was frightened, who made mistakes, who was perhaps not ideally suited for the work by any conventional measure, and who did it anyway. Every day, for 3.5 months, alone. That same year, 1949, she was posthumously awarded the George Cross, Britain's highest civilian honor. France awarded her the Croix de Guerre. The medals came 4 years late. The recognition came decades late. The statue came 68 years late. Consider that for a moment. 68 years. In 2012, a bronze statue of Noor Inayat Khan was unveiled in Gordon Square in London, the first memorial to a Muslim or an Asian woman in the United Kingdom. The inscription on the plaque reads, "Pray tell us, little Noor, what is life's greatest secret? To make the heart dance with joy, my dears." The words are from one of her children's stories. She had written them long before the war, long before Paris, long before the Gestapo and the chains and the cell at Pforzheim. She wrote them when she still believed that gentleness was the answer to everything. The remarkable thing, the thing that makes Noor Inayat Khan impossible to forget, is that she never stopped believing it. Not entirely. Even in the work she did, which required deception and concealment, and the constant proximity of violence, she carried something irreducible inside her. She was not a killer. She was not a strategist. She was not built for the shadows. She was a woman who believed that freedom was worth more than her own life. and she proved it. Her bosses wrote that she was too soft for the job, too gentle, too honest, too emotional. They were right about all of it, and none of it mattered. Because when everyone else left Paris, when the networks collapsed and the arrests came, and the rational choice was to run, Noor Inayat Khan stayed. Not because she wasn't afraid. She was. Every day. But she understood something that our interrogators, for all their training, never could. There are things worth more than survival. After the war, someone looked at everything she had done. The 100 messages, the months alone, the chains, the silence under torture, the last words spoken kneeling on the ground at Dachau, and decided that this story could wait. That the world didn't need to know yet. That a Muslim woman of Indian descent who had died nameless in a Nazi camp was not quite the face of Allied heroism that the post-war moment required. So they sealed the files, and they waited, and her name was buried for decades in classified documents and official silence. The government that sent her to die called her a footnote, a minor agent, an unlikely spy. She was the last wireless link between the French resistance and the free world. She held the line alone for 3.5 months. She refused to break under torture that lasted 10 months. And someone decided you didn't need to know. Her last word was liberté. Now you know her name. Don't let them bury it again.